I've made this chart to make sense out of what's happening now with virtual reality being touted for football training, especially with the EON Sports and the Striver getting a lot of attention right now, going into a lot of high-level college programs, and with Striver in particularly also going into NFL programs, recently signing a 2-year contract with the Cowboys to put together a training unit at their facility, a training room at their facility. So we want to look really carefully here, and including looking back at some of the things that have been done before in virtual reality. A lot of the press coverage makes it sound like this hasn't been done before. That's not the case. In fact, 10 years ago in 2006, Play Action Simulator from Exos and Pro Simulator from Gridiron Tech were taking a very elaborate virtual reality approach, giving the EA Sports Madden type of gameplay into opponent preparation, playbook learning. And so we want to look at why are those no longer there. That is basically going to come down to the row you see here for source visuals. And this is what you're not going to hear from the salespeople. The real deal breaker, deal maker of these systems, for them to become a part of your day-to-day, is where is this source visual material going to come from? You don't want to be trading so much reality, sexy virtual reality, for reps, for lack of reps, that you don't get good learning. So you got to use these things in the right context in order to get the value out of them. So we want to look at those two. I'm gonna give a short 5-minute overview here, and then in a separate video, we've got a little bit longer look at some of the same things. You'll notice here that I have not only the 3D VR on the left side, but also the 2D video, because we also have to consider that there's much more that we can do with what we think of as routine game film and practice film than we're now doing. So a lot of times if we're saying, oh, VR brings us things that game film doesn't, it's because we're just not doing enough with our game film that's been sitting there in front of us to do for however long. So we're going to look at some of the advantages and disadvantages of each format, some appropriate uses, with a little bit of a notion of what the cost is, because that can vary a lot on these. And the cost is not just money, and it's not just acquisition. It's what are the man hours of keeping this thing going and really making it part of your day-to-day. So the main ones we're looking at right now are the Axon Sports and the EON Sports within the animation 3D approach, which is basically like a video game. The great advantage there is you can fly that video camera around to any view. It can be the quarterback's view, the linebacker's view. You can have a straight overhead drone shot view if you want. Put X's and O's on the helmets. So that's the great advantage there. Now the disadvantage of that is that there's an artificiality, and those things have to be programmed well. And if you're looking at how fast a safety in this particular coverage would actually be able to get over and cover a particular zone, you may not have those in as accurately, because these things are created on the desktop by people with a fair amount of expertise in doing those things. The Striver, on the other hand, uses a 360 video approach, and this is really connected, especially in the NFL, because you get that real look. It's actually put together from video. It's like you are right in the middle of the video. So it's got that realistic movement of characters. However, it's extremely elaborate to produce. This is not putting a helmet cam on. This is a 360 video rig, usually 6 or 8 GoPros, and it's got to be shot from exactly the position it's got to be shot from. You don't just automatically make one out of practice reps. Obviously, you don't do it in the game. So there's a high end to coming up with the source visuals on that. Both of these systems are quite high end on that, which is why here in the chart I note that you're probably looking at service contracts, where you're contracting with these providers to make these source visuals for you. Especially with the authored one, more than with the 360 video, you may have video staff who have the time and the expertise to be able to be trained to produce these things in-house, which obviously is what you would want to get to. On the other side of the line then, when we're dealing with the 2D, we don't have the 3D virtual reality, but this is film we're already getting. There's ways we can enhance it by using a little bit better camera views, maybe a Hawkeye camera behind the quarterback in a 7-on-7 practice situation. Maybe we do use the helmet cam there. On the game video side, we've got our 22 in and especially our end zone, over the shoulder end zone. And we enhance these with quizzing, which is not as interactive as running around on the field, but still makes it interactive learning. You want to get your driver's license. We remember when you're a kid, or your kid wants to get the driver's license. Hey, Pop, quiz me on the driver's manual. So we don't want to underestimate the value of simply quizzing on information. So that's a basic overview there. We'll go into more detail then in the second video, talking about what are some of the particular uses that each of these tools is good for. This is not a good or bad or better or worse. That's not what this is about at all. This is a matter, let's use a hammer to drive a nail. Let's not use a screwdriver to drive a nail. Let's not use a router to drive a nail. Let's make good decisions about what we're using for what purpose.